It's time to put the good in your morning. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Today, a Texas resident is in some hot water after having a Halloween display inspired by Gentlemen's Club.
Cold, wet, and windy for our Thursday, but I tell you what, we're actually going to see some sunshine by the end of the day. We'll have the latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Cold, wet, and windy it is here in Oklahoma, but in-person voting starts today, early in-person voting at that. We'll have all the details for you. The KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 starts right now.
Thanks for joining us on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. I'm Tanya Bach. Oklahoma sees their first day of early in-person voting. For the next 3 days, folks can avoid the Election Day rush by casting their ballot now. Early voting will be open at county locations today and tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and again on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Well, voting is underway in many places and ends in less than a week, and we spoke with some local officials on things you need to know when you're heading to the polls. Voter turnout is expected to be high this year, so officials say expect long lines and be prepared to wait. They say it's also important to be mindful of those around you. Officials say they also encourage masks or face shields, although they want to remind people they cannot enforce a mask mandate. There's also a small change to the way you'll vote in Jasper County.
We will be using the styluses this year that everybody will be taking home with them. We do not want them back. And when you look at the way that the polls are going to be, everybody should be able to have the ability to vote without having to touch anything in the polling location except for the ballot.
We've also added some resources in case you fear election fraud or that your rights have been violated. You can find them on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. U.S. Senate candidate Roger Marshall and U.S. Representative candidate Jake LaTurner campaigned in Pittsburgh yesterday. They talked to voters about multiple issues, including policing. With recent incidents of violence involving police officers, there have been calls to change the way officers are trained. Congressman Marshall says he believes Kansas is doing a good job training officers, but thinks there is room for improvement.
Kansas is one of 5 states that requires an extra 40 hours per year of their officers for increased training. We already have programs for accountability as well, and those programs are working. Is there room to get better? Of course, and then I'm encouraging them also to hire more minorities as well.
LaTurner is facing off against Michelle de la Isla in the Kansas 2nd Congressional District. Marshall is vying for Pat Roberts' seat against Democrat Barbara Bollier. A new survey is available for Joplin residents to give feedback on parks and recreation. People will be asked to assess current facilities and programs, also about their recreational activities and interest. Only a randomized number of households in Joplin will receive this survey. So if you get one in the mail, the city encourages you to fill it out. The owner of a Cassville waterslide attraction pleads guilty to making a false tax return. 67-year-old Jerry Beebe owned Beebe's Roaring River waterslide, and authorities say from 2015 to 2018, Beebe filed tax returns reporting income far lower than he had actually made and admitted to destroying his business records. Beebe could face up to 3 years in federal prison without parole. Parsons, Kansas Police Department arrests 2 people in a domestic violence incident involving a gun. Police say officers were called to Prairie Village Apartments for a report of an argument involving a weapon. Authorities say the suspect was in an apartment when he hit the woman with a gun, choked her, and fired the gun into a closet. All while children were also in the apartment. The children were placed with family members. The suspect and another person were arrested. Joplin Sports Authority says it wants to be a part of the conversation when it comes to who will operate some Joplin ball fields. A company called Parkwood is asking the city to let them take control of several fields, including Joe Becker Stadium. They would use them to host a number of baseball tournaments. The Joplin Sports Authority says they can do it better.
Ours would, potentially benefit the city more financially, and Parkwood, they are a for-profit, so it's going to benefit them as well. So we're just looking for the chance to do our jobs and do it well. 1st through October 31st.
Sports Authority plans to ask the council to give them some time to come up with their own offer. Richmond, Texas resident is in hot water following her Halloween display. Now the display in question, it's a skeleton strip club. Angela Nava's Homeowners Association has a bone to pick, calling her creation inappropriate. And instructing her to remove it. Oh, shoot, they already have their clothes off. And for Angela's response, she says it's only Halloween and that they should take it easy. Angela says they gave her until mid-November to take it down, which is fine by her.
Oh, they can't be that upset if they're giving her till the middle of November to
Halloween
take it
anyway.
down.
So, okay, so I haven't looked at these really closely, but
Okay, you go ahead and take a deeper dive right there. I'm
Yeah.
just sitting over here laughing.
I don't really have a close view of it
I
anywhere.
think she gets creativity points right there.
Okay, okay.
You
Well, I
know,
mean, okay, so are they following like the strip club rule where you have to have like one item of clothing on or something? Because sometimes, yeah. Oh, there's one on a
you're
pole.
gonna have to give me.
I see one on
You're
a
gonna
pole.
have you can be the expert on that. I wouldn't know. I would have no idea.
Oh, there's another one on a pole. Okay.
On a serious note, the LA Times actually did an expose on the exotic dance profession and the way it's affected, the way a pandemic has affected it. They profiled 3 dancers. It's a really interesting expose to see what they've had to do during the pandemic, you know, to substitute that paycheck. It was eye-opening. It was something else. Really well done journalism. Notice how I just took that story, flipped it on its head, made it serious because you were asking me about rules and regs at dance clubs. Skywatch Storm Tracker. She just nodding at me, right? I might have just gotten an eye roll right there, as a matter of fact. Skywatch Storm Tracker with heavy rain is lasting from the southwest up to the northeast right there. And we've even got, if you go back to Sunday, right there, that's about 5 inches of rain. That's why that's a brighter green, because that's actually a flood warning. Now, the darker green indicating a flood watch that lasts all the way until tonight. Now, the rain's not going to last all the way until tonight, but I need you to be prepared for that morning commute to know that we're already getting reports of water over low bridges and roads. Coming in from the north, 16 miles per hour, that wind is. Ooh, tell you what, it'll put a little bite in it out there on top of the rain. It's cold rain. It's just chilly outside. 41 in Fort Scott, 42 in Miami, and let's go 39 in Lamar. But remember, take about 9 degrees off of each one of those as far as what the wind chill is going to be. Sunrise will be here at 7:40 on the old bus stop forecast, with the rain persisting through the morning hours. We'll talk about Zeta here coming up next block. I want to get through our day planner because eventually, look at that. A little Thursday sunshine. Watch everything as it rolls, and I mean rolls, counterclockwise action, but off to the east right there. That gives us a little afternoon sun right before it sets. It's going to be chilly overnight because the cloud cover goes with it. But then, look at this. We're going to ride into Halloween weekend in the 50s and 60s. Tanya?
Up next, a missing dog is returned after 6 years.
And we're here in Oklahoma where in-person early voting is kicking off. We're going to learn how the democracy sausage gets made. You're watching the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. We'll be back after this.
The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid announced government plans to pay for the coronavirus vaccine and the cost for all Americans. Now, the agency says it's going to pay for any vaccine authorized or approved by the Food and Drug Administration. While the federal government's paying for the vaccine, insurers, including Medicare, Medicaid, and private plans, must cover the cost of administering it. That's a costly undertaking. Agency says if the 62 million people in the Medicare program were all vaccinated, it would cost around $2.6 billion. Several states are seeing an uptick in hospitalizations and deaths as a new fall surge of COVID-19 cases intensifies. Second wave's hitting the Midwestern states especially hard. Facilities reporting a shortage of ICU beds, and Jonathan Siri has more.
Nationwide, we're averaging nearly 70,000 new coronavirus cases per day. In the last week, nearly 500,000 Americans tested positive for the virus, and now the fall surge is beginning to put a strain on hospitals. 36 states are reporting an increase in hospitalizations, including Wisconsin and Texas, where facilities in hotspot areas are nearing capacity.
We just need to be very cautious about restricting the people that are coming into our acute care facilities.
And as hospitalizations rise, so are fatalities. The average daily death toll now stands at 800, the highest number in more than a month.
Between our ER doctors and our hospital doctors, our ICU doctors, everybody's tired. They see the patients that are coming in.
The fall surge forcing some officials to rethink their reopening plans. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio says the city will soon allow thousands of small businesses to expand their storefronts to the sidewalk in hopes of generating business and reducing indoor traffic.
We do have an immediate danger of a second wave in New York City. We fought it back so far effectively. And so we're going to be very careful to make sure there is no continued danger of a second wave.
And a new report from the CDC finds that adults over 60 years old are more likely to comply with mask wearing and social distancing than people under the age of 30. Researchers say young people may be less likely to follow mitigation efforts due to social or practical factors.
CDC says young people with mild or asymptomatic cases can still spread the virus to more vulnerable groups. Texas family ecstatic when they're reunited with their dog who'd been missing for, get this, 6 years. 6 years. Family says the dog was stolen from their backyard in 2014. And then he turned up this week more than 1,000 miles away. This is the Vasquez family that we're watching. They received a FaceTime call from the Humane Society in Broward County, Florida. Broward County, Florida. That's where the dog, whose name is King and was now 15 years old, was surrendered. The Vasquezes took a 19-hour road trip from San Antonio all the way to Florida to reunite with King and finally bring him home. I would have loved to have seen the old homecoming pics right there. You know, we always hear those stories about, you know, dogs traveling thousands of miles to get back to where they're from. I bet King didn't miss a beat. I bet the old olfactory nerves kicked in. He knew exactly who he was with. That is tremendous. All right, let's pay attention to the rain that we've got working on us this Thursday. Haven't had much of a lightning threat, but heavy rain that's moving through from the southwest up to the northeast, resulting in flood watches. And then you see that light green, that lighter green south of Monette. That's a flood warning, and that is last all the way until 7, because we got to wait till we get rid of this thing down here in Oklahoma City and push it out of there. And what we're seeing is almost counterclockwise motion, not a big swirl, but that's kind of the motion it's going to take throughout the course of the day. That's why it sticks around until the afternoon. Not one of those that's taking a direct line, just kind of swirling a little bit. 41 degrees. It is, I don't want to say it's like overly windy. I'll tell you what, if you walk outside, you get caught in one of those gusts, it'll cut right through you temperature-wise. 39 in Pittsburgh, 41 in Monette, 44 right now in Chanute. So it's a bundle-up day. It's an umbrella morning. You're probably not going to need the umbrella on the way home. Certainly going to need it on the way there, though. Let's talk about Tropical Storm Zeta, sitting right on the other side of that dividing line is what we saw the color contour for our temperature. But still, tropical storm force. Now, the key factor, look at that thing, moving at 40 miles an hour. I mean, that's booking it for a storm of that nature. That's not a bad thing, though, because the quicker we can push that out to the Atlantic, quicker everybody's done with it. They still have thousands of people, though, that are without power down in the Gulf of Mexico. So we'll get some afternoon sunshine here on Thursday, and then after we push that cloud cover out this afternoon, we're going to have a nice Halloween weekend. We're going to see 40s and 50s. Don't forget to set your clock backs on Sunday, and tell you what, Election Day, just looking gorgeous. Be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Early voting begins in Oklahoma this morning. We're going to check in with our own Jesse Irwin down in Miami just here in a little bit. And many, though, still going to cast the election on Tuesday. If you work, how do you make sure you have enough time to vote? Well, Kristen Weaver takes a look at the rights Oklahomans have if they're at the work office on November 3rd.
As One Oak Field gets ready to host thousands of voters for early voting this year, lawyers want everyone to know they have rights when it comes to getting off work to vote early or on Election Day.
Of course, everyone should go vote, and voting is so important that it's even in Oklahoma law that you can have up to 2 hours off compensated to go vote.
Tim Gilpin is a Tulsa attorney specializing in areas like wrongful termination. He says there are some rules to the statute. You have to be a registered voter, you must give your employer 3 days notice before the day you want to vote, and the employer can pick the day and time. The PTO also doesn't count if you have 3 hours before or after your shift to go vote. That means if you start work at 10 or get off at 4, you can't get those 2 hours of paid time off because the polls are open from 7 to 7.
If an employer breaks the law and either treats the employee very poorly or fires them, then they need to go find an attorney like myself.
Employers are subject to up to a $100 fine if they don't cooperate. But Gilpin says that if an employee is fired because they take the time off, it may qualify as wrongful termination. Meanwhile, the Tulsa County Election Board says it sent out more than 74,000 absentee ballots.
We've sent out a record number of absentee ballots.
The board also expects a huge voter turnout when early voting starts on Thursday.
9 states consider Election Day a public holiday, giving workers the day off. Now, Congress considered making Election Day a federal holiday twice, 2005, and then again in 2014. However, neither one of those measures passed. Now, that's the conversation for our KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Instapoll question, asking you if you think it should be a federal holiday. We'll begin our comments with Ron Kogalet, who says holidays are for the weak. Laying out of work, socialism, and ungodly. Jack and Judy Freeman says, no, don't think it should be. However, I feel with all the people wanting to vote and the long lines as seen on TV, employers should give their employees extra time to vote. And Roy Masters, I kept this one to last, because Roy, I was thinking the same thing. If it's a federal holiday, wouldn't the election officials and offices be closed? I think it's one of those things where, yeah, federal holiday, call it what you want, but no, they'd probably be mandated to work. I guarantee you one thing, we'd be here for the KOAM morning news on Fox 14. News one of those things where it doesn't matter who got the day off. I guarantee you we're going to have a show. All right, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote is our morning Instapoll, and right now 74% of you, overwhelming majority, saying no. It should not be a federal holiday. We'll keep the poll open all morning. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote, and we'll be right back. We'll check in with Jesse Irwin down in Miami right after this. Early voting has kicked off in several of the 4 states, and our own Jesse Irwin joins us from the Sooner State, where early voting is just a matter of hours away. Jesse?
Well, Michael, you and I both grew up going to amusement parks, and I can tell you what, I did not like standing in lines. And if you're like me and you didn't like standing in lines, but you do want to vote in person, well, early voting is starting in Oklahoma this morning, and it's already happening around the 4 states. So it's different from state to state, so I want to break this down for you. Okay, so here in Oklahoma, early in-person voting starts this morning, and it's going to be happening for the next 3 days. It's today and tomorrow from 8 a.m. until 6 p.m., and then Saturday from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. In Missouri, the technical term is in-person absentee voting. Since the deadline to request a ballot in the mail has passed, your early voting option is to go to your local election authority and apply to vote absentee. It's the same form, and it'll ask you for an excuse, and maybe that's because you can't make it to the polls on Election Day, or you're an at-risk individual just trying to stay safe during the pandemic. And once you fill out that form, you're just given your ballot right there, and you just fill that out. And when you can do this, today, tomorrow, Saturday until noon, and you can even do it on Monday. So just to be safe, check your local election office for their hours. But it's happening in Missouri as well. And then in Kansas, advanced in-person voting is available statewide. It's been available for more than 2 weeks in some counties, and this is either available at your county election office or at a satellite voting location, especially this weekend in southeast Kansas. So see all of your options through your county clerk's website, or just give them a call. And coming up here in a little bit, because we're here in Ottawa County, we're actually fortunate enough to be in the Ottawa County Courthouse Annex, where voting's going to start off at 8 a.m. And we're going to be speaking with the folks here at the election board about how the process works, what does it look like, how you make it happen. If you've got an absentee ballot, what do you have to do? All those details coming up here on Fox 14 in a little bit.
Good stuff, my man. We'll check in with you in just a tad. At the end of the election, less than a week away, and officials are giving some advice on what you can do to be prepared. KOAM's Chris Warner brings us some essential tips to follow before you head out the door and when you get to your polling place.
With the election coming up, we spoke with some local officials on things you need to know, especially with COVID. Newton County Health Department Administrator Larry Bergner has some pre-poll tips.
Before heading to the polls, I would certainly take caution to stay away from large gatherings, wear your mask when you're out in public, wash your hands often. If you're wearing the mask, try not to touch your face.
Once you get to the polls, Jasper County Clerk Charlie Davis says there's things you can do there as well.
I think one of the things that we're focusing on is encouraging people to wear face masks, wear face shields, things of that nature. We do not have the authority to mandate people do, but we are absolutely encouraging it.
Another good point of advice?
Make sure that you're ready to wait in line for a little bit and wear appropriate attire.
Davis says they've also made a small change to how you vote this year.
We will be using the styluses this year that everybody will be taking home with them. We do not want them back. And when you look at the way that the polls are going to be, everybody should be able to have the ability to vote without having to touch anything in the polling location except for the ballot.
Davis says there's also some don'ts when it comes to heading to the polls.
We do ask people don't bring your own spray and spray equipment down. The fear there is not knowing if somebody is bringing an illegal substance in and spraying things down on the equipment.
Additionally, there's some legal considerations.
Please do not wear any political attire to the polls, whether it's a political mask, if it is a political t-shirt, maybe it's your favorite candidate, favorite candidate's button.
Davis says Missouri statutes prohibit wearing those items because it's considered electioneering. I'm Chris Warner for KOAM News.
We added some resources in case you fear election fraud or if you feel that your rights have been violated. You can find those at our website, KOAMnewsnow.com. We take this time to honor this morning's four-state hero, Joseph Villegas, a first sergeant in the United States Army who served in Germany, Korea, and Vietnam as a part of the 40th Infantry Division. The native of Oswego, Kansas, we salute you. Joseph Villegas, this morning's four-state hero.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. It's currently 7:31. Let's take a look at today's top stories. Oklahoma sees their first day of early in-person voting. For the next 3 days, folks can avoid the Election Day rush by casting their ballots now. Early voting will be open at county locations today and tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and again on Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Voting is underway in many places and ends in less than a week, and we spoke with some local officials on things you need to know when you're heading to the polls. Voter turnout is expected to be high this year, so officials say expect long lines and be prepared to wait. They say it's also important to be mindful of those around you. Officials say they're also encouraging masks or face shields, although they want to remind people they cannot enforce a mask mandate. A new survey is available for Joplin residents to give feedback on parks and recreation. People will be asked to assess current facilities and programs, also about their recreational activities and interest. Only a randomized number of households in Joplin will receive this survey, so if you get one in the mail, the city encourages you to fill it out. Parsons, Kansas Police Department arrests 2 people in a domestic violence incident involving a gun. Police say officers were called to Prairie Village Apartments for a report of an argument involving a weapon. Authorities say the suspect was in an argument when he hit the woman with a gun, choked her, and fired the gun in a closet, all while children were also in the apartment. The children were placed with family members. The suspect and another person were arrested. Hurricane Zeta slams the Gulf Coast, striking parts of Louisiana and Mississippi as a Category 2 hurricane Wednesday evening. Powerful winds with speeds up to 110 miles per hour sent objects flying and knocking out power to at least 700,000 people across Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. A strong gust also whipped up powerful waves along several coastal communities. Wow.
So Zeta's still tropical storm force. Now, I tell you what, this thing is booking it, Tanya. After it made landfall, sometimes we see them move about 5-6 miles per hour, and they pick up as they de-intensify a little. Zeta's moving at 40 miles per hour, still as a tropical storm, has already made its way into North Carolina. When we started the show, it had yet to cross a Georgia state line. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, the flooding is still, the flooding potential is still certainly there, but the quicker we can get this off to the Atlantic, the better off everybody's going to be along the coast and out to the southeast. Now, for us here, yeah, speaking of flooding concerns, just got a new report out of Independence where they're up to 3 inches. You duck down here, southern portion of southwest Missouri, and go back to the beginning of the week. We're cruising past 5 inches of rain right now. So that's why, of course, we've got the flood watches, the light green right there south of Monette, indicating a flood warning, where we do have some roads that are already underwater. Haven't had any road closures as of yet from the Department of Transportation, but we'll keep a close eye on that. Now, eventually, we'll get out of here, but we've got to wait for everything down here in the OKC area to make its way from the southwest up to the northeast. From the Freeman Health System Sky Camera in Joplin. It is a cold one out there, 40 degrees. Only feels like it's 33, thanks in part to that north wind. It'll really cut right through you when it blows. 39 in Lamar, 42 in Independence. Let's go 41 right now in Neosho. Now, eventually, we're going to clear off and actually see some afternoon sunshine. Watch how this almost has, it's got a little counterclockwise to it, but then by the time we get to the afternoon, it begins to push off to the east and we clear out. And like I said, we'd be done with the rain by about 2, 3 p.m. Now, not much of a warm-up after that, but look at what's going to happen on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We're going to have mild temperatures, make it up in the 50s and 60s. It's going to be a delightful Halloween for the kiddos, and just a marvelous-looking Election Tuesday right there. The high is 67 and mostly sunny skies. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this. Election Day, a.k.a. that first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. Well, a lot of us are at work. Now, you guys have states like Oklahoma that allows workers to take up to 2 hours of PTO to go vote. But we're asking you this morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our Insta poll if you think it should be made a federal holiday. And Jim Harris, he says yes, it should. Jim says, yep, we should celebrate the democratic process in America. It'd be the patriotic thing to do. Guy Hansen, he said no. He wants the day after. Jason Stark says absolutely yes. All elections are important, something that needs to be taught in schools, but Republicans will be against this because they're about suppressing the vote. Rocky Cunningham says, why not? You know, all those overworked federal and bank employees could use another paid day off. As far as the KOAM Insta poll goes for this morning, it's overwhelming. 3/4 of you saying no, Election Day should not be a federal holiday. You can go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote to let us know what you think. Now, early voting underway in Oklahoma. Let's check in with Jesse, who's live in Miami.
Yeah, Michael, we are here in Ottawa County, and we are actually fortunate enough to be at the Ottawa County Courthouse Annex, where voting's going to start up at 8 a.m. today. And this morning we are joined by Verna Ferris, who one of the people in charge of this operation here. Verna, you love what you do.
I love my job, yes.
Why is that?
I just think it's an excellent opportunity to fill people in on the voting process. And so I'm so thankful we live in a free country where we can vote.
Well, you've got a great mask to go along with your passion for this. So break this down for me. Show us the process.
Okay. This will be the sign I post in about 15 minutes. Voting here today, 8 to 6.
Cool.
You'll come in through this door. There's a parking lot outside. We have 6 feet social distancing on the floor so that people can be safe while they come to vote. We also have sanitizing hand sanitizer and all of the things that need for sanitizing the booths and all during the day.
Cool. Once you get up here, what do you need to do?
You take an ink pen. On this green sheet, you fill in your name, birth date, address, and then sign it. You'll tear this sheet off, take it up to these ladies that'll be at the computer. They'll check you in the computer. They'll give you a ballot. You go to the voting booth and mark your ballot, put it in the voting machine, get an I voted sticker, and go home.
You made that sound too easy. So hold on, wait, let's back up for a second. So let's say I requested a mail-in or absentee ballot, and it came to my house. Then I decided, you know what, it's Thursday morning. I'm going to swing by the courthouse annex and go vote. If I come in with that ballot, what do I need to do?
If you come in with that ballot, we will tell you that it needs to be destroyed if you did not vote it. So you destroy that ballot, and then you have to sign an affidavit swearing you did not vote it. Then we will issue you a ballot here.
Gotcha. Now, you need a photo ID to vote, and that can be, there's many, many photo IDs that qualify, correct?
It does not have to be a photo ID because our voter registration cards do not have a photo. But a photo ID is accepted in lieu of a voter ID card.
Okay.
It can be a driver's license, a tribal card, a passport, concealed carry.
Military, you're right.
Military, anything
of
with your photo and an expiration date.
Jeez, okay. And I'm sure you're getting asked about straight party voting. Is that something that people can do if they take a ballot?
They can straight party vote. And then if they choose to vote another party down in the ballot, it will override the straight party. You have to vote for the judges. They're nonpartisan. Then you have to vote for the 2 questions on the back.
Gotcha. Now, let's say I change my mind. I walk out of here after voting. I've got my I voted sticker, and I realize, wait, I actually don't want to vote for that person, or I don't want to vote that way. Can you change your mind?
You can change your mind. You can't change your ballot.
You can't change your ballot.
You cannot. Once it goes in that machine, it is secure and not touched again.
Wow. Now, many people from Oklahoma who I've spoken with have told me this state has the most secure election system in the country.
It is the most secure and it's the most accurate.
Why do you say that?
Because it is. We are buried in passwords to get into our system.
Gotcha.
It's just very secure, very, very accurate.
Wow. All right. Well, last question for you. If Michael Hayslip were to stop by here today, what would you do? Would you let him in?
I would let Michael Hayslip in, yes, but he couldn't vote because I don't think he's a resident of Oklahoma, is he?
I don't think he is. No.
And not Ottawa County.
No, not Ottawa County. But, you know, Michael, you come down here, you got a fan here in Verna. So, Verna, we appreciate you showing us just the process. Are there any other questions that people have been asking that you want to make sure people know about?
I just want people to know that we're here today, tomorrow, and Saturday. Don't think you can run in and vote in 2 minutes and leave. You may have to stand in line. So be patient.
But it's worth it.
But it's worth it.
Today and tomorrow, 8 to 6, and on Saturday from 9 to 2?
Correct.
We got it. We're here in Oklahoma this morning. We are learning all about early in-person voting. And we'll be right back on the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 after this.
With people traveling less during the pandemic, hotels are seeing a huge drop in business. Now the industry is trying to attract customers to use their rooms during the day. CBS News' Laura Podesta reports.
Ann McGovern's stay at this Hilton hotel is no vacation. She lives in the area but comes to the Conrad New York downtown in Manhattan to find peace and quiet to conduct Zoom calls.
Just the quiet, less distractions, less feeling like you have to do other things because you're at home and you're trying to multitask. Like, in addition, this just allows me to be able to focus, attend my meetings, be really present for them.
Hilton is one of several chains allowing customers to use rooms during the day. Guests check in as early as 7 a.m. and leave 8 hours later. There's breakfast, lunch, Wi-Fi, access to a gym, and even an afternoon cocktail. The Hamilton Hotel in D.C. has a similar deal, offering customers a room to work in and a bit of relaxation at the same time.
We'll do a shoe shine for you while you're there if you want to kick off your shoes, obviously free of charge.
So you want this to be a luxurious experience?
Yeah, we want to think of everything, including, there's a bed there so you could take a nap if you're going between, large business trips.
The new deals are also helping fill more rooms, with most travel still on hold. The Hilton Conrad's general manager says safety is a priority. Rooms are disinfected and all employees wear masks.
The clean stay environment that we have in the suites and as you enter the hotel make people feel incredibly comfortable.
Expanding the business of hospitality to a new kind of business traveler. Laura Podesta, CBS News, New York.
We'll be back with more after this.
All right, so we're here in a voting booth in Oklahoma, in Ottawa County, in fact. And, as I look at my sample ballot, I have a lot of questions. And so I want to ask for some help. Verna, do you have a second?
I do.
Verna, thank you for joining us. So Verna Ferris with the election board. Verna, a couple questions regarding the ballot. So the first question is, these are fill in the bubble, right? And in high school,
yes,
I had a hard time filling in the bubbles entirely.
Right.
What is the bar for how filled in the bubble has to be?
Well, the instructions tell you to fill it in completely. It will read it if it's not 100% complete.
Okay.
If you accidentally mark in another box, it's going to look like you voted twice.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And the machine makes the decision if it's voted or marked or not. If you voted for 2 people in one area, it will kick it out and say it's overvoted. At that point, you can either spoil the ballot and get a new one, or you can just vote it as it is and it will not count.
Gotcha. All right. Now, this year or this election cycle on the ballot, there are some that you can vote straight party and
Yes.
some that does not apply to, correct?
Right.
Can you sort of just explain that briefly?
If you vote straight party, you mark up here at the top, straight party, and then it votes that party all the way down to the judicial retention. The judges are nonpartisan. You have to vote each individual one. And on the back, there's 2 state questions, and you have to vote those.
Gotcha. All right. Now, when it comes to filling out the ballot, I mean, what's the most common issue you find?
The mistake, you mean? Or
Yeah, issue, question people raise about it? Anything?
usually just they don't realize they've made a mistake until they get to the machine. Then the machine says, this is what's happened.
Gotcha.
Now, if you happen to leave one blank, it will kick it out and say it's not voted.
Huh.
You can go ahead and say, well, I don't know either one of these people. I don't want to vote for them. You hit accept, and it will go ahead and take it. It just won't vote those 2 people.
Very cool. Last question for you. Did you ever think you'd see Kanye West's name on a ballot?
No, I didn't. Did not think I would ever see that.
It's 2020, babe. Hey, thank you very much, Verna. We appreciate you joining us.
Well, thank you for coming down.
All right, we're gonna send it to send it back to the studio. Actually, and we'll be back. We're hanging out in Oklahoma this morning. Early in-person voting starts at 8 o'clock.
That way, top it off, my man. Hey, you know what they say, only in America, right? A look outside of Television City, where it is a gloomy, cold, windy, rainy Thursday morning. Skywatch Storm Tracker showing heavy bands of rain here from the southwest, stretching up to the northeast, crossing over the state line right there. And it's going to keep on rolling in all morning long, resulting in flood watches for the darker green all the way until 7 o'clock tonight. And then south of Monette, that is actually a flood warning. It got about 5 inches if you go back to Monday in that specific portion. Now, all things being said, the drought monitor, that's actually where we had extreme drought in that portion of southwest Missouri. So I try to find the silver lining here as far as the precipitation that we've had this week. That should kind of help a little bit right there. Of course, we can't spread it out. We just cram it all into the span of 3 days. Now, eventually, everything down here in OKC is going to move through us and then out to the east. So we actually will see some sunshine later on today, which is in stark contrast to what we're seeing from the Freeman Health System sky camera in Joplin, where it's 41 degrees but only feels like 33 because of that good, strong north wind that's rolling in. As far as tropical storm Zeta, yet still tropical storm strength, as it's now right on the North Carolina-Tennessee state line, and it is moving fast, 40 miles an hour. Still have massive flooding concerns and thousands of people without power along the Gulf Coast after it made landfall yesterday as a Category 2. Now, as far as our future track, once we are able to spit this out to the east, cloud cover goes with it. One thing about the cloud cover leaving, going to be chilly overnight. I mean, we're going to drop down in low 30s, if not high 20s here in between Thursday and Friday. But then look at this. We're going to rebound. It's going to be absolutely a delightful weekend. Perfect for the kids to go trick-or-treating. Don't forget to turn your clocks back on Sunday. And look at that, Election Day. 67, mostly sunny skies. Be back. Wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14 right after this.
Welcome back to the KOAM Morning News on Fox 14. Here's what's happening today. With Election Day just 5 days away, the coronavirus pandemic continues to dominate the battle for the White House. President Trump visited Arizona and Nevada yesterday, arguing that the pandemic is under control, while Biden again slammed his response. Over the past week, the country has been averaging more than 800 COVID-19 deaths a day. Zeta made landfall Wednesday in southeastern Louisiana as a strong Category 2 hurricane before moving into southern Mississippi. At one point, the storm carried winds powerful enough to blow this trailer across a Louisiana highway. The mother of Breonna Taylor is calling for an independent prosecutor and new grand jury to investigate the fatal shooting of her daughter. Mother Tamika Palmer is speaking out after 2 grand jurors in the case told CBS This Morning co-host Gayle King they believe police actions in the botched raid were, quote, criminal, and that prosecutors never gave them the option to consider murder charges. Let's check in with Michael with a final look at your forecast.
Rainy and windy on top of being chilly outside, and it's going to last all the way till, say, about 2 p.m. Then for the afternoon, after we kick off the rain to the east, we're actually going to see a peak of sunshine with clearing skies. Still going to remain on the chilly side for Thursday. But I tell you what, after we get through a chilly Thursday afternoon and evening, look at Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. 50s and 60s on the board.
Well, she usually writes about food for a living, but the pandemic has helped one woman switch sides to making food. Angela Hansberg spends her day whipping up recipes for an odd but adorable dinner guest, a chipmunk. Yep, she named the chipmunk after jazz great Thelonious Monk. Thelonious' supper ranges from berries to sushi so small Angela uses tweezers to pair a grain of rice with peaches.
Spoiled it is.
But he's a critic. If he doesn't approve, he drops it on the floor.
Rodentia. Thank you so much for letting us put the good in your morning. More news and weather when we see you at noon.
Have a great morning and an even better day.
When you're a single mom with a pile of medical bills every day,